poison the well from which your team replenishes gaiety? If so, you may have a case of low morale on your hands.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to Underground Audience Secrets. And today we will be breaking down episode 5, Trojan's Horse of Severance. So, there's a couple things I'm going to point out in here specifically about the episode that you're not going to want to miss. So, let's go ahead and jump right in. Normally, when I review the videos, I'll go through the entire episode, but today I wanted to just point out a few key points, starting with Mr. Milchick. Now, if you guys remember last episode or last video I did, I mentioned that Milchick, well, I believe Milchick's turn is about to begin. And episode 5 is kind of doubling down on what I feel will be his character's turn. And I do believe eventually he's going to end up on the other side of the fence that Lumen is on, right? But I'm going to point out some specific instances, even in this episode, that just furthers my point or my theory on why I think that might be the case. Now, here's the first clue that's going to lead me into believing that Milchick is going to turn at some point. So at the beginning of the episode, we see the MDR team who is basically going off on Milchick due to the events in Woe's Hollow, right? So obviously, at the end of the last episode, we see everything blow up. Now the team wants answers, and just even the way that they approach Milchick in his office, specifically Dylan G, but even Helly, as she's completely confused at this point. With Helly, you have to understand that the last time she was even, I guess her any was alive, excuse me. She was dipped in what looks like ice cold water. And before that, she was pretty much tackled from a stage where she was revealing how innies live on the severed floor. So she obviously has a lot of grievances and concerns. Dylan G just witnessed the entire Woe's Hollow outdoor retreat scenario, so he's upset. And then Mark, who is in the process of being integrated, is also upset because he just realized that he essentially slept with Heliar's Audi, uh, unbeknownst to him. So you got 3 of the members of the MDR team, plus the fact that they witnessed essentially Urban B's NEB, I guess you could call it, killed. But he's no longer with them. So understandably, they're all frustrated. But here's the kicker: the way that they approach Milchick normally is not the way that they're approaching him now. They're seemingly starting to lose fear. They're making demands. We demand to see him. We don't want to go back to work. We know what happens. He gives them the story. Grokapon, I believe that's how you pronounce it, but essentially saying how this was a story where deception is essentially okay because the point of deception is to see what the team or the employee's true grievances are so they can improve the experience, which is not the true nature of the deception, at least not in Lumen's scenario. So he gives them this story. They're not really buying into it. They really just want to know what happened to Urban B. And once they've accepted the fact that he no longer is going to come back, they're still annoyed. But what you have to pay attention to in this scenario is that Milchick is being approached by his basically employees in a manner that's you wouldn't approach a manager. So understand that even his reaction to this approach from the MDR team, you can see frustration on his face. You can see that he wants to essentially maybe tell them something else, but he's trying to kind of stick to that Lumen handbook, the Lumen way or the Kiers way of doing things. But you can see the frustration there. And then right on cue, we see it's time for a performance review. So The performance review obviously coming right after what would be maybe his biggest failure as a manager, at least as a department chief on the seventh floor. So it essentially is going to be his biggest failure, and then magically it's time for a performance review where you could have guessed that they're going to point the blame on him, and even they mentioned that before the performance review when they spoke with Helena about how this is basically a fit. That was a failure with Milchick, um, and they want to move past that. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that meeting right now because I still want to point towards Milchick and how these events and incidents are going to compound. And before Milchick even gets to his performance review, you see Natalie, and Natalie is essentially leading him towards where they're going to be having it. And he approaches her in the hallway where I guess he's assuming that no one can hear or kind of see what he's saying, but he brings up the paintings again, which, again, this is to reiterate that they at least made him uncomfortable if they didn't outright offend him. And he asked Natalie about, hey, you received those paintings as well. Like, what did you think about that? Now, Natalie is either paranoid completely or is 100% aware that, hey, people can hear what you're saying or people can see what you're saying. I'm not going to answer that question, at least not there. But she does answer the question if you look at her facial expression. Her facial expression tells you exactly what you need to know. The actor does a great job of displaying how she really feels about it. If you look and see how the facial expression she makes, her eyes, you can see her, the stare she gives him, kind of the pause. It kind of tells you that, yeah, I didn't like that either. So Cole Alexander, which is the actress that plays Natalie, does a really good job displaying how she feels there. But she continues to lead him on to the performance review. So here we get the performance review in front of. So he heads in to see Mr. Drummond, where Mr. Drummond instructs him on how a performance review is going to go. Where Milchick basically mentions, I'd love for this to go smoothly. And Mr. Drummond mentions that, hey, if it goes past, I think 4 hours, I believe, we'll provide lunch. And Milchick mentions, hey, we, shouldn't go past 4 hours, so I'm not going to be worried about it. And Mr. Drummond slides the menu over, basically insinuated, no, we're going to be here a while, so go ahead and pick what you would like for lunch. Um, Another jab at, hey, you didn't do good on your performance review, or foreshadowing into you did this is not going to be a short performance review. So over 4 hours long. When he does that, you can also see again Milchick's frustration, but not just frustration, embarrassment of, hey, I thought this would be a fairly good performance review, or at least I was hoping it would be. And clearly, this is not going to go the way that I planned it. Now, keep in mind, he's probably harboring feelings of, hey, this Ortbo retreat would have worked had Helena, your executive or your Egan family member, not interfered and followed protocol the way we designed it, right? In other words, had she not drummed up controversy at the campfire, which led to Urban B kind of being onto her, and had she not maybe even slept with Mark, all of these things, had she just kind of gone with the flow, maybe that Ortbo works. But when you continue to do things that trigger the innies to figure out your actual identity, you blow up the Ortbo experience. And guess who takes the blame? You guessed it, Milchick. Now, despite the fact that he knows he didn't get a real fair shake in that scenario, he's still trying to prove himself to Lumen, or to prove that, hey, I can do this job at the highest level. Now, what we don't know is we don't know if he's trying to prove that just for the sake of trying to prove how good he is at his job, or if they have something on Milchick to where he has to prove this. We see that Mr. Drummond emphasizes how important this work will be. As a matter of fact, he mentions that it's the most important work on the planet to get Mark to finish the Cold Harbor file. Okay. So, do I think that's why Milchick wants to continue doing his job so he can be a part of the most important work on the planet? I don't think he's that naive. I don't think he's that naive to believe that they're actually going to give him credit, even if Mark completes the Cold Harbor file and whatever mission, whatever goal is actually accomplished by Lumen, that they will actually recognize the contribution that Milchick had to completing this goal. I just don't think he's naive enough to believe that if he actually is seeing how they view him, not just from what they're saying, but just from through their actions, right? Everything from the painting to we won't even, if we won't even recognize that you've been department chief by changing your name on a screensaver, you're to believe that we're going to recognize your work towards accomplishing the most important goal in the history of Lumen and we won't change your screensaver? Doesn't make sense. So, do I think he's naive enough to believe they will? Or do I think that he, for some reason, has to complete this goal for them because maybe they have something on him? Maybe they have family member. We don't know yet. We don't know how deep in bed he is with Lumen, um, because it seems to this point that it could be that it's beyond just a job for him. Now, even if it is, I still feel like these events are going to compound and he's not going to feel valued as a manager or department chief. Now, if you studied anything about management and how to hire or have effective managers in a business or in a corporation, one of the things you're going to notice is that you're going to need empowerment, but you're also going to need edification. So, do we believe that Lumen is at least properly edifying Milchick, empowering him? Are they bonusing him? Are they moving him up the ladder of Lumen that he finds fulfilling? We're starting to see kind of behind the curtain as yes, I'm department chief, but what does that mean? That what how do how does he benefit from that? Is it just a pay raise? Or does he feel truly connected to the vision and the goal of his company? And does he feel that the company has a vested interest in his career? So these small things that we're seeing through the performance review, the paintings, the lack of changing in the screensaver, the way that Natalie and him have had these interactions about the painting, even how the innies are starting to treat him, these are going to start to compound if we're to believe that Milchick is actually a hard worker, if he's there every day, if he's, going through the quote unquote grind just to be told that in a performance review, your paper clips are the wrong way, you're using too many big words, quote unquote. You have essentially a 12-year-old, it seems like, trying to tell you how to do your job, but not just trying to tell you how to do your job, assigned as your right hand as a department chief. You have a teenager assigned to what you would assume would be an adult role. So just keep an eye on Milchick's character arc, and I believe you're going to see a turn very, very soon, maybe within an episode or two. All right, guys, so time to double down. I'm going to double down again on Helena Egan. I do not think that she is or she was interacting with the MDR team in a way that's true to character, quote unquote. What I mean by that is when she was posing as Helly R, I don't believe the things she was telling Mark in the tent in terms of she doesn't like who she is on the outside. And when she tells Irving, I'm sorry, once he finds out that she is an outie, one of the things she says is, I'm sorry. Um, I just think that's a misdirection when she talks to Helly via VHS tape the first time Helly actually gets to see her outie. She doesn't come across as sorry at all. Once again, she talks to the board. We have no evidence of her being sorry about what she's doing. She refers to them as fucking animals. She also, if you go back to earlier episodes this season, when she talks to Miss Cobell, or Miss Selvig, or Miss Cobell, whoever you want to refer to her as, regardless to how much work even she's done, she doesn't have any emotional attachment to even Miss Cobell after they've determined that she's a risk, um, and she's gone outside of the lines of what Lumen wants and decides that she's going to give her kind of this job that really has no real meaning. It's just a job in name. So we don't have any evidence of Helena Egan being this character who is going to end up helping the Audis and is going to be have their best interests. And she spent 3 days or a week on the Sever floor, and now that's counter countered all of these years, let's say 25 plus years of Kier programming or Lumen Industries programming to make her go, you know what? I have a heart for these innies and I really want to help them. I don't see that. I know people are trying to say that, she hates her life on the outside. She's restricted to being an Egan and she has to do what her family says. I don't think that at all. No more than I would think that an heiress of a powerful family would try to do that for just a random worker in or a department um, of a corporation or of one branch of a corporation that their family own. I don't see enough to show me that Helena is not truly Egan. So I'm still on that branch of we don't believe you. Finally, I think Mark has just, at least his innie has just lost trust in Helly R. I don't even, due to what Helena did, I think it's caused him to lose trust in even who Helly was on the inside. So he's kind of built up this shell. Mark's innie has built up a shell of, because he doesn't want to be hurt. That's the bottom line. So he's trying to protect himself from being hurt. So he's just kind of like, okay, what's the mission? Let's do the mission and go home. Um, I don't even know that at this particular point he's as interested in finding Gemma or Miss Casey as he was before, because he again has felt betrayed and lied to, and he doesn't know who to trust. Now, when reintegration starts to kick in, it'll be interesting to see how he reacts from that perspective, being able to kind of get some of the feelings that his Audi has as well as an innie. So that's going to be something to watch. All right. So again, guys, I'm not going to do a full episode review because I'm sure you all have watched. Let me know what you think of my Milchick theory, also Milchick's character turn, and a couple of other things in this particular video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of my Milchick theory, also of Helena Egan's true nature below in the comments. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next.